Hello students, I'm Darian and welcome to How to Draw Star Wars Characters Class 1. Thanks for coming and taking my class or watching this video on YouTube, which by the way, these videos will be available on YouTube after the class, but we're going to be learning how to draw Star Wars characters in this class, if you couldn't, tell by the name. But I've picked a lot of characters that are well known and loved in the Star Wars universe, and some other Star Wars related things that we're going to be learning to draw today. And maybe you've drawn these characters before on your own, or maybe this is the very first time you've ever drawn them. But this is going to be a class that anybody can really get into. If you're a beginner, if you're, feeling not very good, or maybe you've drawn characters for your whole life and you just want to learn how to get a little bit better. Well, this class is honestly for everyone, and hey, the number one rule, and the number one just kind of overall statement I make in this class, and in these videos, is that mistakes happen. So, don't get discouraged, don't get upset if your drawing doesn't turn out like mine, or that's a kind of a encouragement to me too, if my drawing doesn't come out exactly like the picture. But every drawing is unique, and every drawing is special, and it's going to be your drawing no matter what. And if you want to improve, that's great. Keep pushing yourself to improve. But if it's not the best, and you know that, it's totally okay. It's your drawing, and if you want to get better, then you can watch the video on YouTube over and over again until you get it right. But this is just going to be a one-time, in-class kind of drawing, and we're going to be drawing the character BB-8 today. I thought BB-8 would be a pretty simple character to get us started out. We're going to start a little bit easy today, and then we'll work up to the harder characters and probably make it to the final fight with Darth Vader. And I call it a fight because, well, he's going to be a pretty hard character to do, especially because he's pretty much all black and would take a lot of shading, but we're going to find a way to do it. So BB-8 today, yeah, let's get started. So I picked BB-8, as I said, because he's just a lot of circles, and in this class we're going to be drawing a lot of circles. You guys know that if you've taken my drawing class before. We usually always, at least almost always, start with a circle. So without further ado, let's draw BB-8 with a circle. So we're going to start with, as you can see over here, his main kind of base is a circle that he rolls on, and then his head is kind of like a half circle. And another thing I hope you guys are going to like in this class is my descriptions of the crazy shapes that we have to draw. I know in my classes in the past we've drawn some crazy shapes, and I've tried to describe them, but it's always pretty weird. But this one's pretty easy. Let's draw a circle. So the size of the circle that I'm looking for on your sheet of paper, I'm trying to think of something that I can compare this to. Maybe like an orange. So draw a circle the size of an orange. And the best thing to do is just keep going around, because your wrist has a natural rotation in it. So if you keep doing this, and you'll eventually get a line that you'll like. So let's draw a circle. I'm no professional myself. And you can just draw that in the middle or a little bit lower than I drew it. Alright, and another big staple in my class is make sure you draw lightly. So if you got another piece of paper and you already drew it really dark, make sure your lines are pretty light. I'm pretty sure you can see that. But almost make it so that you can't even see it, because these are our guidelines. We will darken them in later. So make sure when you're first drawing the shape, unless I say to draw it dark, don't draw it dark. Always draw it light. Alright, now we got to draw 3 more circles, and then we'll do the head. Now these circles are going to be halfway off our drawing, and we're going to be erasing like right after. So make sure when you draw these circles, you draw them very, very lightly. Just use the very tip of your pencil. Don't press down super hard. Just draw them lightly. So the first one is going to be his left. I don't know what these are. I think these are just like little mechanisms that BB-8 has. He's got a lot of hidden things, like his little torch. Probably the best scene from Star Wars The Force Awakens. BB-8's little torch scene. Alright, let's draw our first circle. I'll draw it, and then you guys can follow along. See how it's kind of off the paper here. It's kind of out of our other circle. That's okay, because we'll be erasing everything to the left of it. So I'll give you guys a second to do that. Draw lightly. And also what I'm going to do is, to make it a little easier on us, we're going to draw the same size, or the same shape of a circle, only a little bit smaller inside of that circle. Like that. And we're going to do the same thing for the next two circles, only in different spots on our drawing. So the next one's going to be at the top right of the circle. And after this, we're going to do a bunch of erasing. And you can do the same thing on the inside. And I'll give you guys a second to catch up. Alright, and let's do our final circle. This one's going to be at the bottom, a little bit off to the right. Not quite in the middle. You're probably wondering, why are we drawing this if we're just going to erase it? Well, I would say that's a good question, because I ask myself the same question all the time. Why are we drawing this? You know, if we have to erase it. But it's a lot easier to draw a full circle than just a half circle. This one's going to be a little bit bigger than the other one since I made it a little too small. Like that. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase everything. Just on camera. I'm going to erase everything outside of our big main kind of orange-sized circle. So you guys can follow along and do that with me. Just erase everything outside of it. And the big thing every week is make sure you're bringing in pencils with erasers. Whether it's probably best to have just a regular number 2 pencil. Sometimes the mechanical pencils can get really screechy and kind of annoying. And I'm alright with that if that's all you have or that's what you bring. So no offense to anybody who might have brought one today or is using one in the video, but not a problem. It's just best to use number 2 pencil just for control, and it's easier to do lighter drawing with one of those. So I'm just gonna brush this off really quick. Alright, that's good enough for now. Alright, so now we're going to start on the head. I'll just kind of brush this off. I hate the little scraps leftovers. Alright. So now we have the base of BB-8, and we'll go through some details in a minute. But now we're going to draw his head. And you guessed it, it's going to be another circle, and we're going to edit this one too. We'll do some more erasing in just a minute. Now this circle's a little bit different from the other circles that we've done. It's going to come, we're going to start with a circle, but then we're going to kind of make like a flattened gumdrop sort of shape with that. So just bear with me. So let's see, I'm trying to think of how long we should do this. Let's start up here. So I'm going to start a circle kind of with my wrist, as if I was going to come around, but then I'm going to kind of make it a little different. I'm not going to go all the way around. I'm going to make this into a flatter, almost a pointy shape, not quite pointy. I'm just going to extend this a little bit more, just like that. And you can erase what you don't like or what you do like. Make sure you keep. That looks pretty good. And then what we're going to do is below it, we're going to make a connector like that. So it's kind of like a smile of sorts. And then we'll come back to that. Inside of your connector, you can erase all that's in there so that it's white space again. And let's continue with our circles, and let's give him his eyepiece. This is kind of what gives BB-8 his character. just a little circle there. And we're going to do 2 more. His lower eyepiece. This is how BB-8 sees, obviously. That's what you do with eyes. But it's like a lens, and it's sent to his memory. And that's how he processes things. Perfect. Okay. So how you feeling about your drawing so far? If it's not perfect, don't feel upset or discouraged. Mine's not either. I made the head a little too small, but that's okay. You can follow along. If you don't like what I'm doing over here, you can follow along on the left and copy that one. It's always there. Alright, let's start to speed things up and do a little bit of detail work before we go into the base. Let's start on his head. So we're going to make this, it's another circular shape. We'll start by making the top kind of like a circle like that. It's kind of like a leaf almost. And then we're also going to make that kind of a bar. So now it's kind of like a bar going across his head. And we're going to do a similar thing following the same curve over his eyepiece. So we're not going to go completely to the eyepiece because there's another shape there. So we're going to stop here right before the eyepiece, and then we're going to follow this line. Only this bar is going to be a little bit thinner. And if you are coloring it, it's going to be orange. And the same thing on the right side of the eyepiece. We're going to do the exact same thing, not touching the eyepiece. And then we'll just follow along the bar up top and make it a little thin. And this line can be darker because you're not going to be erasing this. Now with the bar on top, we're going to add 4 lines. They're not quite straight lines. They're a little bit curved. I'm going to add them to the top left and right of the eyepiece and to the sides of his line there. And what you can do is you can lightly, using the side of your pencil, like this, lightly shade in this bar here because it is gray. Like that. Alright, next we're going to make his antenna. This is going to be just a oval. And you can make this nice and dark. And then we're going to do a nice thin line going up like that. And then a circle like so. And he also has another antenna. I think the second one is the one that we're drawing now is the one that gets broken in the movie. If you guys remember that, BB-8's antenna gets kind of broken. That's going to be a very thin line. And then we're going to make that kind of 3D. We're going to draw a line next to it and then connect it on the top. And there's a little line below there, so it's kind of like a very stretched out rectangle. And you don't have to darken that in because it's kind of a grayish white, and we don't have to draw that in. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the detail around his eyepiece. That's going to go up to this little bar here, and we'll connect it just to the top of the top bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this rainbow kind of shape above the eyepiece. And I'd advise to keep this a little light, but I'm just drawing it a little darker so that you can see what I'm doing. And then in between the top eyepiece and the bottom one, the little visor there, we're going to draw a curvy line, and then we're going to connect these, and we're going to bring the left side of it down to a point, and then we'll just connect this with a curvy line like that. That's going to be just some detail in BB-8, and now let's kind of darken in the outline of our eyepiece. And we're going to draw a circle inside of the circle. Keep it thin. And if you'd like, you can shade in the top gray, and then you can go a little bit harder with your pencil and fill in around it. This indicates that there's some kind of a source of light. And ironically, in my room, the source of light is to the left, so I'm just making the source of light coming from the left. This is kind of like a refraction of light on BB-8's eyepiece, which is very common in most drawings. So now we're going to do the same thing with the lower eyepiece. We're going to draw a circle within a circle, create a little bit of a refraction of light, and then we'll make everything else black, nice and dark there, like so. Alright, now we can darken in the lower circle. I believe this is one of BB-8's buttons. That's just a simple circle there. And we can darken in the outline of his head. I'm going to edit mine a little bit because I didn't like how that turned out. So before I make it too dark, I'm just going to edit what I think it should look like. And now I can just erase the lighter lines, and now we just have the darker lines that I want to keep. And the darker lines don't erase very well, and that's why I just want to keep there. And you can also do the line below, kind of like his little, this connects his head to his body. I think magnetically is how they do that. They actually have an actual BB-8 that they use for the movies. That's not all just CGI. They have an actual droid BB-8, and it kind of rolls around. It's pretty cool. I think it's remote control. And that's why they have so many BB-8 remote controls out that you can play around with. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 6 lines on his lower, this thing under his little head here, his connector. So I'm just going to draw those in roughly. It doesn't have to be specific. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, shoot, I only did 5. Well, how many you want, honestly. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add more detail. We're going to add a bar kind of just to the very bottom of BB-8's head. It kind of wraps around. And these also have little lines in it, but keep those a little bit lighter. You can connect those to the other lines that you have already below. And this line below here, this little bar with the lines that we first drew, you can lightly, with the tip of your pencil, make that a little bit darker so that you can see that it's separated. And instead of drawing this gray, we're just going to keep that white for the sake of the drawing. Alright, next we're going to draw some squares, but we're going to give them a little bit of a curve on top. So we're going to draw 2 lines going up following the way that his head is tilted. So his head is tilted the same way as the pencil is. If his head was tilted straight, the lines here would be straight up, but they're not. So it's following the line of his head. And we're going to make it a little curved. So it's going to kind of be a bowed straight line like that. It's got a curve. It's kind of curving down like a bowl. And you can draw some squares within those squares, 2 of them. And we're going to do the same thing next to it, only this one's going to be a little bit thinner. Actually, a lot thinner. And with this kind of detail work that we did, we're going to also draw another square. We're going to use that same concept, a bowed kind of bowl line curving inward. And then below, we're going to do the same thing, following it, and connect it like that. Now on this side, as you're kind of catching up, we're going to draw some detail work right here. Like that. And that's got 2 lines coming out. And we'll draw kind of a gumdrop shape there. And now this one is going to be following the same concept as we did for this, only it's going to be a little bit curved. So what I mean by that is we're going to draw another bowed line, and then another bowed line, and come down like that. And we're just going to totally skip, unless your head's super thin, you can draw in those other 2 squares, but my head's not thin enough, so I can't draw that in. And then you can draw a line in between those, like that. And now you have BB-8's head. Pretty cool. But now we gotta finish BB-8's body. So what we're gonna do now is, since we can keep all the circle now, we can just darken in the orange size circle that we have. And just keep the lines of the circle that you thought were best. Because see, I have a bunch of different lines that I use for my circle, but I'm just going to keep the best ones. And now it looks like a perfect, well, it's not perfect, but it's closer to a perfect circle than actually just trying to draw a circle like really hard. And now what we're going to do is the inside of our other circles, so you know these 3 little donut kind of circles that we drew earlier, we're going to just draw in the outside. So again, pick your best lines for your circle, your best curves. I think that one was my best. And just do the inside. I guess you could say this is the outside as well, since it's the outside of the circle. So just do the ones that are pointing to the very center of BB-8, like I'm doing. Alright, those are the 3 best. Now what we're going to do is, he has little spokes inside of those circles. So using kind of like this inside circle, we're going to go off of that, and I'm going to draw 3 spokes on the left circle, and I'll do them, and then you can follow along. They're not quite any shape at all, really. They're kind of like triangles with a square top. Just a flat top and then another angle. But some of them are a little bit more curvy here. Alright, so I'll give you a second to catch up, and I'm also going to just fill in lightly the interior too. So the lines that we had for the circle. Not as dark as the ones on the outside though. Now, each one of these on the top of it has a circle, so 3 of them all together. And then inside, he has kind of the same concept as we used for up here, a bowed square. So we have 2 lines that are kind of circular, kind of like a bridge inside of there. And if you want to lightly shade that in with the very tip of your pencil, that's going to be gray. And the same concept with the 3 squares inside. We want to make those gray too. So you can just draw 3 long rectangle square shapes and lighten those in gray, like so. And now we're just going to draw a line coming out of the middle ones, because we drew 3, so out of the middle one, we're going to draw a line coming out, and that'll be the last detail we do. We'll thicken that up later. But now, we're going to work on the other spokes. This one, if you notice on the left, the circle starts out kind of thin, so it starts thin here and then gets bigger. So it starts thin and then kind of like starts to expand. So I'm going to draw this spoke. This one's a little bit thicker than all the other ones. So I'll draw that one nice and thick. Kind of like a big gumdrop. And then it ends a little bit fatter on this side. So thin and then fatter there. And the inside we'll just draw in lightly. And we'll make sure to give it a nice circle there. And now we're going to draw another circle shape on the bottom. Like that. It's kind of like that leaf shape that we drew right at the very top for the top of BB-8's head. But just a simple bridge kind of shape, rainbow. And we're going to add another kind of inside spoke. So it's going to be a line going up and out. And then a circular bowed bridge kind of line here. And like this, and then down like that. And on the other side, excuse me, whoa, I need some water. Woo, my voice is starting to go. So this side, we're going to do another one of those bowed bridge shapes here. And you can, when you finish that little shape here, you can lightly, with the tip of your pencil, darken those in. It would be this shape here, the circle, and then the bowed shape. What we're going to do now is I'm going to connect these two circles by a very light line. So starting here, I'm going to draw a curved line from here over to the other circle on the left. And I'm going to add in between two circles. These are representing BB-8's kind of bolts that he has that keeps them together. And two light lines here, kind of like we did up here. He's got just random kind of lines. And I'm going to draw one here to the bottom left, kind of a square. And now let's finish this circle to the right. This one's a little bit more detailed than all the other ones. So first we're going to draw the spoke. Like that, just a tall gumdrop flake kind of circle shape. And then it's going to end sort of like this. It's almost if we were drawing another spoke, but it kind of ended because we kind of lost it over there. Now we're going to do another bowed shape. I'll just draw it in and then you guys can follow, because we're getting towards the end of the class today. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying your time and not getting too discouraged. Once you've drawn in this little shape here, you can kind of shade that in lightly. It's going to be gray with the tip of your pencil, and then I'm going to lightly draw that, connect it, and then we're going to add our circle like we've been with all the other spokes. Now before we finish the inside of his little circle thingy here, I'm going to add another curved line to connect these two circles. And we're going to do the same thing over here, like this. And in between both of those, add two circles as bolts, like that. Give you a quick second to catch up. All right, I'm going to add some extra details while you're doing that. You don't have to add this in, but if you want to add them in, you can either follow me, because I'm going to be doing them for just a minute, or you can finish them up to the drawing on the left before we end class today. So I'm just going to add those in myself. Kind of just freely draw those in, add some detail. All right, let's finish the inside spoke here. So we're gonna add this top part here, just a little part, that's part of his, another spoke that's kind of off, and we're gonna add a circle in there because, like I said, it is a little spoke. And then inside, I'm just gonna draw the shape. It's a circle, and then it's like this little kind of cup shape here. And I'm gonna shade that in gray, like that. And last but not least, we're gonna do his little kind of, I forgot what I explained this to be. It's kind of like his little flare thingy, his lighter, if you will. So let's draw that in. Let's draw in, it's kind of like a little cup. And then we're gonna draw a line going up like that, and then we're gonna shade in the left side. So it kind of looks like that. We're gonna add 3 of these shapes here, kind of little fingers almost, because this is his hand, right? And on the top, we're gonna add like a crown shape. This kind of jagged lines, and then a flame. And I'm gonna make my flame a little bit bigger than the one on there. So it's kind of like a leaf. You come up, and then you curve back into a point, and then you kind of make like this smile here at the end. And I'm gonna inside follow the same shape, only smaller. And then you can lightly shade that in however you want. And then I'm gonna make his lighter, just the little arm of it, pretty thick. This is the easy way to draw it. It's just pretty much a line. The actual lighter in the movie is more technical than that, but I picked a little bit of an easier rendition of BB-8. Now, the most important part at the end of your drawing is not to show your friends, not to hang it up on the refrigerator just yet. But before you show me your drawing, I want you to make sure that you sign your drawing with your signature or just your name. And if you want to, at the very bottom of your paper, you can put in the date. Alright, well that is your one-of-a-kind drawing of BB-8. I thought he was a pretty easy character, but hey, he had some difficult parts too. If you want to rewatch this video on YouTube, then make sure you go check that out at The Restart Life. That's where I post all my how to draws, and I'll be giving you the link in the future if you need it, so just ask me about it. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then hi, thanks for watching, and thanks for following through with this how to draw step-by-step BB-8. So thanks for joining me in how to draw Star Wars characters. Next week we have another droid that we're going to be drawing, so look forward to be drawing that friendly droid next week. Guys, thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you didn't get too discouraged and that you were able to follow along nice and easily. So I'm Darian with How to Draw Star Wars Characters. Have a great day.